What's up, 49er faithful? Welcome to another episode of the 49ers Mailbag. Excited to have you back here with me. My name is Rob Schuh. As always, your host for this fantastic mailbag session. We're going to start off today's show answering mailbag questions that have been previously submitted. So if you're saying to yourself, well, hold on a minute, Rob, I haven't submitted any mailbag questions. Well, don't worry. If you haven't submitted any mailbag questions, number one, we will allow you to submit mailbag questions for the next episode, and we'll tell you how to do that. But secondly, most importantly, you are free to put your mailbag questions directly into the chat. Definitely get those into the chat. I will go through and answer those at the end of the program. Want to make sure that this is as interactive as it can possibly be for you. But if you're wondering to yourself, I want to know how I can submit a mailbag question for the next mailbag. Because, Rob, I really like those thorough answers that you give to the previously submitted mailbag questions. Here's how you do it. You have a couple of options, and you can hit me in any way that you see fit. First one, throw me an email, 49ersmailbag@gmail.com. 49ersmailbag@gmail.com. 49ers spelled 49ERS, mailbag@gmail.com. Or hit me up on Twitter. You can see my Twitter handle right up there in my new little overlay that I built. That's probably bleeding a little too much into my head there. I'll have to shrink it down or just slouch a little bit. But you can hit me up on Twitter. For sure, hit me up on Twitter, DM, whatever. Or respond to the comments of this video on YouTube. And honestly, 3 out of the 4 questions came in different ways this way. So all 3 ways have been hit for this mailbag. But important for you to know, if you're just joining now, once we've gone through those initial questions, I am going to open it up to the live mailbag portion. And that's where you put it into the chat of this live mailbag right here. So if you can, type out @RobSchuh prior to your question in the chat when you want me to read it. It's not as easy for me to read on StreamYard. It doesn't have the color coding that it does when you see it on YouTube as it is on my end, the back end in StreamYard, but I can pretty easily spot that Rob Schuh. I want to put it out there in advance that if I miss any questions, I apologize. It's challenging to get through everything and manage the chat and keep the dialogue going. So that's just the way that it is. But I definitely want to thank all of you for your support to this point. Absolutely. Just climbed over 800 subscribers in the last day or so on the channel, keeping it going up. If you're watching this video right now and you haven't subscribed, please click that subscribe button. Please click the like. It is part of the algorithm. It does help me out. If you can do those things, it projects my voice to more people. I consider myself to be an independent 49er content creator, and I need help getting my voice out there. You all can do that for me, and I appreciate it a great deal. This is a special what's up to TJ Campos, who I had a little exchange with on YouTube, one of our Niner faithful subscribers, coming in all the way from frickin' Guam to watch the show. What's up, TJ? Good to have the dialogue on YouTube in the comments. Glad to have you here. I don't know what time it is in Guam right now, but hopefully you're on the show. And if you are, throw your questions in the chat as well. I try to engage with everyone I come across, whether it is through Twitter, whether it is in the chat, keeping you guys coming into the show live, or in the YouTube comments. I always like to have a dialogue with the 49er faithful. I'd like to let everybody know that there is constant content coming out from my show, from my channel. Give you the incentive to subscribe to this. The content's coming out regularly. On Mondays, you're looking at a typical game day breakdown show. Always trying to get in special guests for my Mondays, much like last week, this week with Jesse Naylor of Last Second Sports, the week prior with Jack Hammer of the Santa Rosa Press Democrat. Look for more upcoming guests to be coming next week on Monday. Very pleased to announce that we're going to have Jordan Elliott, Splash Cousin from Twitter, who covers the 49ers for NinersNation.com. Very excited to have Jordan on with us next week. He's a phenomenally insightful individual, very balanced and nuanced takes. And you know me, I love the nuance. I love the balance in the conversation about my 49ers. Wednesdays is going to be the mailbag every week. Again, throw in your questions prior to the mailbag or come in live and do the live comments. Friday is always going to be the late show coming on after my live stream with Grant Cohn, which is typically scheduled at 11 a.m. on Fridays. My show goes on live directly after that, so make sure that you switch from his channel to mine to follow the action and keep the conversation going. Saturdays and Sundays are reserved for pump-up specials, pregame, post-game breakdown, so make sure that you subscribe to the channel and hit that notification button so that you get alerted of the random live streams that come up for the pump-ups, the pre-games, and the post-game breakdowns. Or you can follow me on Twitter, where I announce all of my live streams before going live. So let's get into this mailbag now. Don't forget, plug your questions into the chat. We'll get to those as soon as we wrap up these initial submissions. First mailbag question that we have coming in from Robin P. Robin P. asking, on the latest 49ers talk, the Matt Mayoko podcast, Matt Mayoko said this 49ers team is bad and called for the 49ers to switch to Trey when he is healthy. And he wanted to get my thoughts on that. Let me start with this one and say that Matt Mayoko and I are in pretty tight lockstep on this one. If he did reach out to me for my advice, I would have given him similar advice to what he ended up saying on the podcast. So why do I feel like this is a bad team? Well, I'm sure not many of you are asking that question. I'm guessing the vast majority of you are on board with the idea that at this point in the season, you must admit to yourselves that the 49ers are not a good team. And if you have that expectation that they are good, you're going to be in for significant letdowns. And I need to get to a point where I'm not going in with expectations, where I'm setting myself up properly to view these 49ers as they should be, which is a bad football team to this point. Yes, it is a wildly talented roster, in my opinion. That's part of the frustration for me, is that the 49ers are vastly underperforming where they need to be based on the talent that they have on this roster. You're looking at least a handful of guys that are the best or close to the best at their position in the NFL. Yes, certainly have the injury worries, but every team in the NFL has those injury worries. You have to think about the fact that the 49ers have proven to us in small glimpses that they are capable of more. But the bottom line in the NFL is winning. The bottom line in the NFL is, what have you done for me lately? And what I can tell you definitively is that in the NFL, good teams do not lose 4 in a row. You could go so far as to say that average teams do not lose 4 games in a row. That is almost 25% of your season spent losing week after week after week after week. And it just makes me reevaluate what I think of this team. Now, we can get into the reasons behind why this isn't a good team, but I personally needed to change my expectations for this team week in and week out because it was driving me absolutely crazy. On the second part of the question, in switching to Trey, my stance is you got to wait until he is for sure healthy. I mean, like 1,000% healthy. Not healthy enough to practice, not got in a limited practice this week, not, he's feeling better. I really want to make sure that Trey is up to the task. Why? Because I want Trey to have the greatest chance to succeed. You cannot allow the way in which this season is circling the drain to influence the development of Trey Lance, because the development of Trey Lance is the 49ers' future, the future of the entire franchise, right? The next 4 to 5 years without Trey Lance as the bright spot become pretty dark indeed. If you want to say that we're in year 5 of the Shanahan and Lynch era and we still don't have an answer at quarterback, man, that would be painful to admit at this point. Much easier to just admit that they've horribly mismanaged the way in which they have approached this 2-quarterback system, or having a young quarterback, a young, inexperienced quarterback. I would much rather criticize the way in which they've handled it than start to wrap my mind around the idea that they've completely blown this. No, it's too early for that. Trey is a wildly talented individual. You see the flashes of greatness. Don't get down on the rookie, and don't force this year's errors onto him either. Don't compound those errors of suffering through some garbage football to this point, some serious letdowns from an execution standpoint. Don't pile all of that onto the rookie. Trey Lance cannot be viewed, in my mind, as the savior of this season. That's just too much for the young gentleman. It was the front office and the coaching staff that put the 49ers in this position. You can't now turn to Trey and expect him to bail them out. The impetus for fixing this season still remains on Kyle Shanahan and his coaching staff and maximizing what this roster can do as a whole. It is not just poor quarterback play that has us where we are at this point, and therefore I cannot say that Trey is the savior of the season. I want to see progress from him this year. I want to make sure he's healthy when he comes in to start, and I want to make sure that he is put in the very best position to succeed. So therefore, I just can't see a scenario where he started practicing in limited fashion today. I can't see a scenario where it's best for him to play against Chicago this weekend. I'm all good with Jimmy G going in on Sunday, playing against the hometown Bears for him, reliving a little Chicago magic, and then start the transition. Whether it is working Trey in on more snaps per game or handing over the reins to Trey and trusting that there will be growing pains, because quite honestly, how much worse can it get at this point? Moving on to our second mailbag question. We've got this one coming in from Stephen F. This one came in via Twitter. That previous one from Robin was from our 49ers Mailbag at gmail.com. Just want to call that out. But Stephen F. via Twitter asked, does Jimmy G actually give us a better chance to win? He points out that the stats would actually say the opposite. Jimmy's certainly been flawed this year, and you could point to Jimmy's flaws throughout his entire career as a starting quarterback within the NFL. He's not a game manager, but he is as conservative as a game manager in that he doesn't take shots down the field. But he's not a game manager in that he commits considerable turnovers. So those two things in and of themselves make for a poor starting quarterback position for the 49ers. When you have someone that's committing too many turnovers, throwing that what in the world was that type of pass on a regular basis. I mean, he's committing on average greater than 1 turnover per game at this point, but not taking the risks, he's still getting burned. That's wild to me. You're not taking the risks, shots down the field, but you're still getting burned. So if you were a gunslinger, Jimmy, if you got back to 2017 form and you were really chucking it around the yard, making some throws that people said, wow, look at that release, look at that accuracy, then the turnovers would be acceptable. Then it would be, well, that's the cost of doing business when you have someone that views themselves as a bit of a gunslinger. But you're looking at Jimmy's performance, and he's almost at a point where he's refusing to push it down the field, not pushing it outside the numbers, really not seeing throws that leave you wowed by arm strength or quick release. And on top of that, now the decision-making is going to be as suspect as it has been. That's tough to deal with. That is tough to deal with. On the other side of the ball, whatever your thoughts of Shanahan, whatever your thoughts of their plan to get Trey Lance involved in the offense this year, I think on some level, you do have to trust him in his assertion as to whether Trey Lance is prepared and ready to play within the offense or not. And the only reason I say that you sort of have to trust that is because he's the one with the insights. We aren't there in the full practices, and therefore we can't speak to Trey's readiness. Now, I do view Kyle's comments through the lens of Kyle's seeming refusal to play a lot of these young players. And some of these young players, Trey himself included, have flash greatness to where it makes you wonder, Kyle, if you're an offensive genius, can't you put these players in a position to be successful? Can't you dial things up in such a way that you're limiting the areas where they haven't grown yet, where they haven't mastered the offense, but you're putting them in a position to be successful? Because right now, it looks, by all outward appearances, that Kyle does not trust Trey enough to put him in a more traditional form of his offense. You saw the offense that Kyle wanted to run with Trey at this point in his readiness against Arizona. 16 runs, 9 of them completely designed. I believe it was 3 that were RPO where Trey ended up taking off, but you have to at least view those as a 50-50 chance that Trey's going to run. So you're looking at 10 carries right there, and you had to think to yourself, he will scramble out of the pocket at some point. So that's another couple carries. It ended up being 4 more, totaling 16. But even if you're running through in your head, well, how many times do I want the kid to actually carry the ball? 16 is probably not the damn answer you're coming up with. And if it's not the answer you're coming up with, then 9 designed runs was too many, especially power runs into the heart of a defense that is a legit NFL defense, very talented NFL defense. And you ended up where we are with Trey getting dinged up. Doesn't seem like a huge shocker to me. Where were the designed rollouts? Cut the field in half for him. Allow him to escape with his legs, but not force him into the run. Allows him the chance to practice throwing the ball away, running out of bounds. All of these things that are skill sets Trey doesn't have down just yet as a starting NFL quarterback. It seems like Kyle is overthinking it when he's designing the offense around Trey. Just a reminder, if you're here with us, those of you watching, put those questions into the chat. As soon as I get through the remaining 2 pre-submitted questions, I'm going to be getting to your thoughts in the chat, and we're going to keep this thing going. Next question came in from Chester G via YouTube. And this one isn't specifically 49ers related. And I'm going to preface this by saying I am not a medical doctor. And I considered not putting this up to answer it, but I want to give you my opinion, my belief in this, how I'm treating this. Because, again, I am not a doctor. This is not medical advice. I'm just going to give you my own comfort level in attending games and the feeling that at some point I personally need to get back to a more normalized way of life. But I will say that I am cautious. I have underlying conditions myself that I don't know if they play into what is and isn't impacted by this frickin' virus. But what I will say is something like an indoor venue, I'm skeptical. My wife and I are season ticket holders for the Portland Trail Blazers here in Portland. We love going to the games. That said, I don't love sitting inside with a mask on for hours on end. I don't like being inside with people crowding around me. The last 2 years, my social anxieties have increased. I had pretty much beaten those in my lifetime. I pretty much felt good in all social circumstances. The last couple of years have done significant damage to that, and I think we all have been in different mental spaces. So that's a question only you can answer, whether being in tight quarters like that makes you feel anxious at this point. My feeling on the NFL is I'm willing to be back out there. I'm willing to be out there in an outdoor stadium. To me, that makes the difference in my comfort level. I was planning on attending 4 games this year. The 4 games that I was looking to be at were Jacksonville, Tennessee, Seattle, and LA. Now, I'm reevaluating going to Jacksonville. Let me tell you why. Because I have my hotel booked out there. It's all reserved. I'm ready to go. I was going to meet up, probably would still try to meet up with Jesse Naylor while out there. I mean, it would be a good game to be at. Trevor Lawrence is going to be starting. You know, you get to see the number 1 overall draft pick. Thought I'd get to see Trey Lance up against him. I guess that's undecided at this point. But that's a long trip to make across country to go see a team that's not very good when your team potentially is also not very good. That's a damn long flight from Portland up in one corner of the country down to frickin' Jacksonville in Florida in the other end of the spectrum. That one's on the fence now for me, but I was planning to go to Tennessee around Christmas. That's a beautiful place to be, even if your team isn't all that good. So I'm still looking at that one. Go up to Seattle, quick drive from Portland. I'm all over that. And LA visiting some friends. So my 2 cents on it is do what you're comfortable with, and don't be ashamed with what you're comfortable with. Man, be proud of the fact that you're sticking to your guns. Whatever you feel is the best for you, for your family, for your health situation, that's what you should do. But don't second guess yourself if you're uncomfortable with it. My wife and I had to hit pause on the Trailblazers season tickets for the year. Thankfully, they allowed us to do that. I didn't want to be at 41 games inside with people breathing down my neck with a mask on. That was uncomfortable for me, and I had to step away from it for the year. But 49ers games outside, I'm in. But I leave that up to you, and I don't judge. Next question that comes in before we get to those in the chat, and yes, this is a reminder, keep throwing those comments into the chat because we are going to get to them as soon as we wrap up this question. Coming back in again from Robin Pratt via Gmail at 49ers Mailbag at gmail.com. Robin P. asked, if the 49ers lose Sunday, who will the scapegoat firing be? To me, this season is setting up to be John Lynch. Let me call out that I believe it will be much closer to the end of the year. I don't think that we're going to see John Lynch let go mid-season. That would seem desperate. And I think Jed York has attempted to get fans to see him as a less desperate owner. In the past, he has come across as extremely desperate, extremely unpredictable. When he tweeted after the Seahawks game on Thanksgiving that led to the firing of Harbaugh, it was just a train wreck. And he has to want to avoid appearing as though he does not have it together. And therefore, to me, it needs to be much closer to the end of the season. And I think that there's still enough time for things to turn around to the point where that changes. But right now, as I see it, I believe this is setting up to be John Lynch. Now, if we see an atrocious game on Sunday, in particular, if we see a continuation of those pass interference penalties, you could see a firing after Sunday. You could see a scapegoat. You could see, Corey Undlin, the defensive pass game specialist and secondary coach, you could see him let go after Sunday. That would be a reactionary move. That would be, wow, this season has really gone off the rails and we need to do something to get the faithful feeling like we have this under control. At this point, I'm going to say that there's enough blame to go around that I don't think firing any one person is the solution here. You could sell me on Corey Undlin being an appropriate firing depending on just how atrocious the PI penalties were on Sunday. But let's look at the totality of problems that we have on this team and tell me if you can assign this to any one person. The roster construction has been shoddy from the outset. Trades have bitten the 49ers in the ass. I mean, let's be real, though, that the DeForest Buckner trade alone, to me, could be reason enough to let John go at the end of the year. It has worked out so poorly to this point that if something doesn't turn around, you could see that as justification alone for letting go of John Lynch. We've had questionable value assessment. This news that broke about potentially being offered a second-round pick for Jimmy Garoppolo is yet more evidence of that. Now, that'd be a whole nother topic, and I'm guessing someone put that question into the chat, so I'll wait to get to it. too many penalties. That certainly speaks to poor coaching from this organization. I'm laying that on Kyle because I believe in the buck stops here mentality. Planning around injuries and more injured players again probably goes more toward John Lynch on that one. A seeming refusal to play inexperienced rookies. Are the individual position coaches not standing up for the players that deserve to play at this point? Or is it Kyle Shanahan and some belief that you really need to have veteran players in there and that you cannot allow these rookies to learn on the fly? They're just not good enough coming in, whereas every other team seems to be able to plug these rookies in early and have some success. At least put them in specific scenarios where they can be successful. You see past players who have struggled that are having success with other teams. The prime examples being Dante Pettis with his 5 reception game this week. Solomon Thomas having a great year for the Raiders so far. So there are players that were unable to develop within the 49ers system that are now developing on other teams. Leads you to question even more within the leadership. The reason I pick John Lynch in my summary is really still believing in the potential greatness of Kyle. And I know that there will be 49er faithful out there that are frustrated in hearing that. But to me, it is so clear to the eye test when Kyle is hitting on all cylinders. When you watch that first drive, the scripted plays in the game against Indianapolis, you can't tell me that that doesn't scream offensive play design genius. The misdirection, what he was doing, had Indianapolis's head spinning. Yes, I agree that his getting away from that is as head-scratching as the plays are magnificent, but that feels so much more fixable to me. It would be fair to say, Rob, you can't fire either one of these guys by themselves. They were a pair, they came in together, and they need to leave together. That's fair. I get that logic. And a lot of NFL owners believe in that logic as well. I would prefer, if John is let go at the end of the season, I would prefer a strong football mind come in, a strong GM that can assert themselves and really stand up to Kyle in all aspects and take more and more off of Kyle's plate. And it's true that if you find a good candidate like that, they may not want to come in here unless they can pick their own head coach. But this is a complicated situation. This is complicated by the fact that everyone at the top of this organization is friends. I don't know which of these two is better friends with Jed York, whether it's John Lynch or Kyle Shanahan. But they're both over at Jed York's house having wine with he and his wife. So you have to imagine that these conversations, as they grow more uncomfortable, are difficult to have. And it would be difficult to let go of either one of these if you've become rather close during a 2-year pandemic, right? That forced all of us into tighter relationships in general. I would think that that's the case with Jed York and both of these individuals. So you have to wonder if he's going to be willing to let them go. I think it's entirely within the realm of possibility that neither of those people lose their jobs, neither John Lynch nor Kyle Shanahan. I would guess that that only happens if we see significant improvement this season. You would need to see reason for optimism with the new rookie. You would have to see Kyle wrap his arms around Trey Lance and a budding relationship where Trey seemed like he was getting what he wanted out of it. Kyle was happy with it. He's presenting it positively to the media. We're winning games or at least seeing progress there. But barring some significant steps forward, with all of the errors that have been made by this team and this organization, in particular, those things that have come to light this season, I have to think somebody answers for it at the end of the year. If the 49ers don't make the playoffs, which seems like a near impossibility, it's not. It's not. They could rip off 8 straight wins. There's no question that's possible. But is it likely? I'm resetting my expectations so that I'm not wildly disappointed. I'm not losing my faith in this team as a whole. I still view them as a wildly talented group, but I think even wildly talented individuals, it can take some time to get it right. And you're looking at a team that's got a lot of things going wrong for it, a lot of things that need fixing, a lot of patches, a lot of holes that need to be patched. And it takes time to do that. It takes time to come together. I was praying and hoping that it was a light switch. It would just come on, and maybe it will at some point, but I'm no longer setting the expectations there. All right, people, you know where that brings us at this point in our show. It is time to answer the live mailbag questions. Again, everything we just went through there was previously submitted mailbag questions where I had some time to come up with my thoughts. These are going to be on the fly. So I am going to be going through the comments here. I will throw up interesting comments that I think are relevant to the conversation, and certainly anything that has @RobSchuh and a question following it. I'm going to try and get into that. Let's start here with Ro. Ro says, can't believe we were a Super Bowl team in 2019, and it's now come to all of this. Where do we go from here, Rob? Is there still hope for this season, or is it time to retool for next year? Man, oh man, oh man. That's a tough question to answer because certainly the 49er fan within me says, yeah, you need to do everything you can to win every possible game this year because there are only 17 of them, and I can't take too many Sundays where I'm depressed because my 49ers are losing football games and losing them in some embarrassing fashion. I am not okay with that. I need to see quality football on the field on Sundays. So for me, that's the focus for the 49ers brass. It is all about getting the ship right, making sure that we don't see those PI penalties over and over and over again. The false starts, the mistakes, the errors, the compounded errors. That's what I want to see from football this year, from 49ers football this year. That's my priority for this season. But if I'm weighing the two, this season versus future, I've got to lean towards the future at this point. I have to say to myself that the development of Trey Lance, ensuring Trey Lance's success within this offense, within this system, hopefully underneath Kyle Shanahan in my book, that has to be paramount. That has to be what you're looking for. I can't imagine many scenarios where the 49ers could actually trade Jimmy Garoppolo at this point. But if they could relieve themselves of that salary cap drain that is the remainder of his salary, because let's remember, his salary is broken up into 18 different game checks. He's already been paid or will have been paid 8 of those game checks as of this weekend. So only 10/18ths, 5/9 of his salary remain to come off the books, minus the dead money. And a team that's willing to take him, the 49ers are probably eating some of that anyway. And what are they really getting back in return? So my question is, what really can be done this year to develop next year? Well, it's really focused on developing Trey Lance and letting go of any of the one-year contracts where it's clear that that person is not going to be re-signed with the 49ers and they can't help a contender. I don't know if K'Wan Williams is out of our reach for next year. I love him as a slot corner. You'd think that with Lenoir stepping up, that they might turn to him next year. You know someone would be willing to give up a 5th, a 6th, maybe a conditional 6th-round pick to take on K'Wan Williams for the rest of the year. He is a very talented slot corner, and there are competing teams out there that would give us something for him. I think the focus, the priority, if you're prioritizing one over the other, has got to be the future. Man, it pays me to say that. It really does. The Jedi coming in must win for Jimmy versus the Bears for the starter role going forward. Absolutely. I mean, if he is able to win convincingly in his homecoming in Chicago, it might earn him another start. I'm open to that. I'm open to new information as long as Trey is being worked into these games. No more of this, well, game plan just didn't work out such that I could get Trey Lance any snaps. No, Trey Lance needs to have more and more snaps each week. I want to see a crystal clear plan of progression for the young rookie. That's what I want to see, and I'd be fine with throwing him into the deep end and letting him swim at this point because let's be honest, we're at 2-4. We are at 2-4, and you would think with his physical gifts, he would be able to fight through a lot of the struggles. You would absolutely think of that. Luke Walsh coming in says, chat participant of the month gets a Corvette C8 Z06. Good Lord, the new Z06 looks phenomenal. I am a big fan of American muscle. The first legal car that I owned in my lifetime was a 1969 Pontiac GTO with a 455 cubic inch engine. I loved that car. I rebuilt the engine in my driveway. My parents were pissed because I got oil all over their driveway. It was the wrong kind of car for a 16-year-old to be blasting around town in, but I loved it. Still got a 1967 Camaro RS SS that is in the build phase right now. Big fan of American muscle. Throw those big engines out there. That's the way it should be. Indeed. The Jedi asking, is Jimmy playing for his job versus the Bears? Yes, I believe so wholeheartedly. I believe that a bad showing by Jimmy should show anyone in that organization what the rest of us, I believe, are seeing to this point, that it's probably time to develop the rookie. It's probably time to admit that your plan was flawed going into the season. It was flawed going into the season. Camper Report throwing out the compliment here, audio sounding crisp, and pointing out that I will be on the Camper Report tonight indeed. We will be live at 7 p.m. on the channel, the Camper Report. Go subscribe, like, good dude, Ben Camperman. Jamie calling for Ayuk to get the ball. Yes, indeed. You like to see that he was first in line for the reps at practice today. You have to think that indeed, at some point, there will be a resurgence of Ayuk this year. At some point, it will happen. TJ coming in. What's up, TJ from Guam? Rob the boss. Appreciate that. Thank you, my brother. Made my day. It's only beginning for you and me, my man. For me, my man. I appreciate that. I appreciate that, TJ. I appreciate you coming in here, being here live all the way out in Guam. What's up? Hey, Jamie talking about Trey looks healthy at practice. Start him. I'm going, needs to be 1,000% healthy. That's my stance on Trey Lance because I don't want him to get injured again. I can't have his development hampered by a decision, a desperation decision by the 49ers brass because they're sitting at 2-4 and feel like they're on the hot seat. Rowe coming in. Can't believe we were a Super Bowl team. I think we already touched on that one. Yeah, we did. We did. My bad. All right, Jamie Bryant asking, what would you do to turn this season around? I know the stupid penalties are hurting us. Yeah, this is a tough one because it's execution on all levels. And so there's clearly something happening within the organization. Now, I will point out that Kyle Shanahan lost 10 assistant coaches this year. And we don't really talk about that very much. 10 assistant coaches left, including his defensive coordinator and his offensive play designer of the pass game in Mike LaFleur. So it's reasonable to say that what we're seeing as far as penalties and lack of development and sloppy execution could be as a result from the loss on the coaching staff. And we may see some natural progression there. We may see them getting their feet underneath them at some point. But to me, it's a question of driving home those staples, finding out who are your leaders on this team. You have to have some players step up and hold one another accountable. I think you heard from Joe Staley this week that he sees that's a problem within the organization. I saw greater accountability from the coaching staff, specifically from Kyle Shanahan this week. That's great, but that needs to be stepped up even further. Again, big believer in the buck stops here mentality. When you sit at the big desk, everything falls on your lap because you are the one in charge. You're the one that has to come up with the answers. So I'm looking to Kyle to take responsibility and to be clear about where we need to improve. Because to this point, when you ask this question of Kyle, maybe he's just trying not to give away his answer to it, but it honestly feels like he has fewer answers than I do at this point. And that's pretty crazy. Chester commenting that Jimmy should have been playing for his job last week. I do wonder if Trey was completely healthy, if he wouldn't be starting this week. I wonder if that's really the limiting factor here. If we wouldn't be seeing Trey work in with the first team right now if it weren't for that knee injury that's limiting him in practice. Just my 2 cents on it. Julio Cardona saying Trey will start against the Cardinals. It makes sense because at that point, he will not have the full season of experience. He will have played every NFC West team twice this year. I'm not sure I'm following you on that one, Julio, but I would agree in that I think he starts later in a couple of games. I do think that you see Trey come in. Again, I'd be fine if there's a natural progression as long as he's getting more and more snaps each game. The progression, the development of Trey Lance is the priority here. Tim Martin, so far, Trey has shown these flashes, but he's got some learning to do. A lot comes with experience, so the game slows down for him. I agree with that wholeheartedly. I always point out to people, hey, just imagine starting a new job, how uncomfortable you feel the first day, even if it's something you're comfortable doing, even if it's the same job you did at your previous employer, just being in a new environment is stressful. Now, imagine there are 11 full-grown men attempting to kill you on the other side of the ball like it is in the NFL when you're on the field. Imagine the stress that comes with that scenario. It is pretty ridiculous when you think about it. So, yes, allowing him to get his feet wet is important. Getting him play time is very important indeed. Let's see if Julio addressed that question a little bit, made it clearer. I'm going to try this second attempt. Trey will start against Cards. He won't have the full season of experience, but he will get to play against every NFC team in his rookie season. I like that. I like that. Clarification is that if you allow him to start beginning in Arizona, it will be a second game against AZ, but it will then allow him the opportunity to play against Seattle and LA, get that experience going into next year, because I do believe that the development is paramount. Little shot at Jimmy G from Julio. Jimmy is not a game manager. He's a game subordinate. He's underneath the manager, just one step below, indeed. TJ coming in, what realistic trades do you see happening, if any, before the deadline? Thanks, brother. No problem, TJ, in advance. Honestly, I think you've got to look at the one-year players. It pains me to say, as our unofficial/official unpaid sponsor, Big Dave's Barbecue right here. DJ Jones's father with that Big Dave's barbecue sauce. I'm a fan. It goes, all proceeds or a portion of the proceeds go to charity. I don't get paid for that promo. Just throwing it out there. Yeah, DJ Jones could be it. It's anyone that you see on those one-year deals. You'll hear floated out there by other folks in this space that maybe some of the bigger names could be on the market. I don't see that. I don't care if George Kittle does have a propensity to miss 3 to 4 games a season. I'm not trading George Kittle. I may be stubborn there. I may be foolish there. But when you have one of the best at the position to do it, it's like the Buckner trade. It doesn't make sense to me in that regard. You don't get rid of those, but you do try to recoup some value from players that are going out the door anyway. So K'Wan Williams, DJ Jones, Trent Sherfield, anyone on the one-year contracts who has at least played up to what you might expect from them could be on the trade block. And anyone you bring in needs to not add value for this year, not just this year, but needs to add value beyond that. They have to be young enough and cheap enough that they provide value going beyond this season. I don't want to see any Band-Aids this year trying to fix what is already probably a lost season. G. Reyes saying I'm making way too much sense at this point. Just being far too rational. I should be a little more emotional at this point. I will say in my emotional state, I almost didn't wear the Jerry hoodie again because it didn't bring me enough mojo last week to change things around. So I thought to myself, well, damn, I guess it didn't do the trick. No, I'm back in it because it's clean AF. Let's just be honest. Anything with Jerry on it, I'm on board. So yes, definitely making too much sense. All right. I am rolling down, still about 25 minutes behind in the comments. Apologize for that. But if you have a question, get in there so that I can answer it at a later date. Yep, interrupts here talking about the earlier question. went to the Cardinals game, and he was okay with it. I appreciate it, man. I appreciate you getting in there. I appreciate those people that are in the stands. And again, whatever is in your comfort zone for sure. Saying hello to Brian Culp anytime I see one of those names. I have terrible short-term memory, but as we get to know one another more and more and more, I'm going to recognize more and more and more of these names. Please forgive me if I don't, because again, I have trashed my own short-term memory, and it was bad to begin with. No question. Ryu Ken points this out. Do you feel like the beat writers are turning on this coaching staff? That's a great question, Ryu. And yes, absolutely. I feel like the beat writers have turned a corner, and the national media has turned a corner as well. Everyone is saying to themselves, we need to reconsider our expectations for this 49ers team. Everyone came into this year thinking that 2020 was an aberration, that it was those injuries. I mean, think of the cap dollars that ended up on IR in 2020. It was a reasonable thing to believe that, yes, 2020 was mired by injuries, and you'd see at least a return to form slightly of the 2019 season. Unfortunately, that has not been the case. And everyone who came in believing that has slowly come to the realization the beat writers are a well-informed group. They are a well-informed group, very insightful, and I look to them for all of my 49ers content. The national media, I don't think they cover the 49ers as closely, and so they're a bit slower on the uptake there. But to hear Matt Mayoko come out and call the 49ers a bad team repeatedly, man, that says something about where they are and what they need to do in order to turn this season around. Because if Matt Mayoko isn't on board anymore, that's a problem, 49ers. DeLondis Green saying he's from Tennessee and he'll see me at the game. I look forward to that, my friend. Please reach out and let me know where you're going to be, because my wife and I should be at that game. We'll really enjoy it. Looking forward to some phenomenal food in Tennessee. Looks like a great downtown place to stay. I'll be looking for some restaurant recommendation. I'm a big foodie. I like to eat well. So DeLondis, please reach out and let me know where I should be eating when I'm in town. Where's the good stuff? Where is the good stuff? Indeed. Julio coming in. I have so much sympathy for the 49ers fans who bought tickets to the Trey versus Fields game this weekend, but are now getting Jimmy G against Bears without Mac. That is painful, man. That was, I'm sure a lot of people circled that on the calendar of, Trey Lance getting to go against Justin Fields. Will this tell us one thing or another about who the 49ers should have drafted? There was a lot of top billing that could have gone into that. Now it's just a homecoming game for Jimmy G, which is cool for him. Hey, man, anyone that suits up in the red and gold, I'm behind you. I am rooting for you wholeheartedly. I don't do this, I'm rooting against you because I want a different guy to start. No, if you are in for the 49ers, if you are on the team, I'm riding with you. I may be frustrated. I may even criticize you quite a bit, but I'm not going to talk relentless trash. I'm not going to degrade you. I'm not going to dehumanize you. I'm a faithful, man. I'm a member of the 49er faithful. That is who I am through and through, and I'll never change. Never. Not until I'm dead and cold. And even then, my tombstone might say something about the 49ers on it. Man, that reminds me that even though I showed my brick on the last show, I was supposed to bring it this time. Before we end, I'll have to get the brick out. It is here. It is here in the room. I just will have to go get it and show it off. I know Gavin is looking for that. Gavin made the special request. He sent me the reminder, so I have to do it. All right, looking down the questions here. Yeah, Julio, I'm with you. Trey was supposed to win Rookie of the Year. He ain't playing enough to do that. Melvin asking, hey, Ro, what does Atlanta and SF have in common? Oh, Ro, that ain't Rob. That ain't me. That's questions in the chat between all of you to one another. DeLondis coming in with a question. If John Lynch is fired, would Adam automatically be next man up since he's GM too? You would think that he would certainly be the interim GM. And honestly, I think he should have a shot at it. I hear really positive things about Adam Peters, who is our number 2 underneath John Lynch. when a team lets go of their GM, as long as they have a qualified second in command, typically that's what you go to. So yes, DeLondas, I would thoroughly expect if John were let go before the end of the season, that Adam Peters would be the replacement. And I also suspect that if John Lynch is let go, even at the end of the season, that Adam Peters would have a shot at the job. It would be tough, though. That's a hard sell to 49ers fans of, oh, we got rid of John. I mean, we're just rolling with a dude who was in the building when we made all these decisions, but he's going to make the difference. He is going to change it up for us, right? That's a hard sell, but I don't put it past them at all. All right, coming through. All right, Interrupts has here. Don't you think this team is lacking leadership? We have the talent we had in 2019, but all of the leaders in 2019 are gone. Buckner, Sherman, Bourne, Staley, Sanders. The leadership is missing. Yes, great call out. I will add to that Quan Alexander. Some of these guys are not just the heady leaders on the team like a Richard Sherman. Some of these are the emotional leaders in the locker rooms. The KB, Kendrick Bourne, Quan Alexander, the guys that get you amped up to go run through a wall because this is football and people's lives are on the line. People are grown men throwing themselves at one another. You better be fired up when you get on that field. You better be a little crazy like George Kittle. So yes, I do think they are missing a lot of that leadership. And hopefully as this season progresses, the pressure of this season will form some diamonds. Leadership is not necessarily a God-given trait. Many people earn the role of leaders. Many people step into the role of leader. This season has gone badly to this point, but it's possible that out of the ashes, rises a phoenix. And potentially some of these players that you're not expecting to step up, grab hold of the reins and take control of this team and get them back on track. Going on to the next question here from Julio. Rob talked about leadership with Jesse. I did. Servant leadership, as a matter of fact. How can we expect leadership when your star tight end can't stay on the field and your starting quarterback is a game away from being unemployed? Yeah, you can't expect Jimmy G to be a leader because you have cut him off at the kneecap. And many of the players that you would expect to be the leaders of this organization are injured at this point. Trent Williams would be another one. And so it's hard to ask those players when they're not on the field to be leaders of this team. Bryant Culp coming in with the question, I went to the Packers game. I want to go to the Texans game. COVID really messed up everything. I didn't want to get vaccinated. I feel COVID isn't going away. I will agree with you in the sense that I don't think it is going away. And I do think that people should do what they're most comfortable with. And I applaud them if that means getting back to life and getting back to 49ers games. I am all over that. DeLonda's coming in. Here's my real question. What made Kyle and John think if you draft Jimmy's replacement, he was going to play his heart out for a Super Bowl for a team that's letting him go? It makes no sense. This is the point. Everyone's getting upset that the 49ers didn't accept a second-round draft pick in compensation for Jimmy Garoppolo. Let me take this point to say my 2 cents on that. That was too late. If you're mad that they didn't take the second rounder for Jimmy, you're mad at the wrong transition point. DeLondas points out where the flaw was in this entire logic. Believing that you could go in with Jimmy as the lame duck quarterback was just a mistake from the outset. You needed a different bridge quarterback. You needed someone that we weren't committed to, that they weren't committed to us. You had damaged Jimmy going into this. If you accepted the second rounder from the Patriots at the draft, you are then going into the season, with Nate Sudfeld as your backup quarterback and Trey Lance starting from the outset? That is a risky scenario. Now you're forcing Trey into a situation that could be bad for his development. I get that game practice, game reps are fantastic. However, there are plenty of examples of quarterbacks whose careers were initially set off their tracks by being thrown onto bad teams when they weren't ready. David Carr, Alex Smith. You can see time and time again the damage that can be done to a young player's confidence if they're not put into the right situation to succeed. So to me, you have to go further back when you're looking at the reasons why this season went off the rails. And to me, it was this belief that we are going to be both Super Bowl contenders this year and building the future of this franchise with Trey Lance. As soon as you said you were going to do two of those things extremely effectively, that was the failed logic. But you sold it to me. At the time, I thought to myself, this is fantastic. We're going to win a Super Bowl this year and be set up to win the next 3 Super Bowls in a row because Trey's going to be lights out. Like, I bought into it, not hook, line, and sinker as I just laid it out there. But those were my hopes. Those were my stretch goals for this team. And I just have to be realistic that their expectation coming into this was way off. They misjudged this scenario, and my expectations as a result were off, way off. Paul comes in. Why no word on Jeff Wilson? We did just get word on Jeff Wilson from Shanahan at the press conference today. He mentioned that no, Wilson won't be starting to practice in the next couple of weeks, that it's not that close to the horizon, but that he does expect him to contribute this year and that you're probably looking at sometime in November when they open the practice window. Remember that injury, while it was done getting up from a chair, was a reasonably serious one and did occur in the preseason, so he hasn't had all that much time to heal up. But Shanahan said that he could open the practice window for him as early as next week. That sounded doubtful, though. I'm thinking probably 2 weeks. The person we have no word on is Jalen Hurd, unfortunately. All right, looking through the questions, trying to catch up. We're about 25 minutes behind at this point. Interrupts comes in. Do you think the offense is partly struggling because they are practicing different plays in practice and not focusing on one thing? Potentially. But Shanahan seemed to avoid that in preseason. He seemed to say we are not implementing 2 offensive systems for that very reason. Now, that's almost even more frustrating because you told us you are not implementing 2 systems because you're worried that the offense is going to be disjointed, won't have enough reps to practice both systems. And then the offense is disjointed, even though you didn't practice both systems. And when you throw in Trey Lance, he doesn't have a system that's set up to maximize his skill sets. So you really got the worst of both worlds there. Eric here, I haven't read the entirety of it here, but I still find it hard to believe Belichick, for anyone else, would have given us anything better than a 4th, let alone a 2nd for Jimmy. I am a little skeptical about the news as well. Skeptical in that it was a concrete offer. I do not doubt that each team was feeling the other out, but I think if it were a concrete offer, the relationships between San Francisco and New England are good enough that when it came to the Garoppolo trade, I believe it was Lynch talking directly to Belichick or Shanahan. I can't remember off the top of my head, but it was speaking with Belichick. This was reported as executives within the organization there. So that is what leads me to believe that maybe they were just feeling one another out. Roe agreeing with me here. I agree, Rob. I have high expectations, especially if you're considered a playoff team. Absolutely. Absolutely. That's what we were told over and over again, that this team would, in fact, be competing for the playoffs and the Super Bowl. EMA and I had a little something last week. If you saw it, I'm not even going to rehash it, but I just want to compliment EMA because EMA, we had a misunderstanding, but then EMA reached out to me via Gmail, right? Came to me at 49ers Mailbag at gmail.com. I just want to give him a huge shout out, man. I got mad respect for EMA for reaching out and clarifying the misunderstanding that we have. And we are totally good at this point in time. Absolutely. So I'm going to read his comment here. The cleanest picture on Niners media. Why, thank you so much. I do try. I try for the fresh gear, the clean picture. No bull. Shout out those quality electronics on the Schuh side of things. I appreciate that, man. I genuinely do. And again, please feel free to reach out with any 49ers mailbag questions that you do have if you want to hit that email or hit here in the live. Ricardo talking about, is Bosa not getting chipped at the line anymore? You know, that's a great question that I haven't been specifically looking for on film. I know that we adjusted to it the following game, that D'Amico Ryans came out while he had no answers for it against the Packers. It seemed that he absolutely did have answers the following week. So that to me was marked improvement. And I think that Bosa continues to impress. maybe not having a 2019 efficiency type of season, but a very solid statistical season and one of our premier players, obviously, all the way across the board here. Bryant bringing in Chargers old owner Alex Spanos wanted to buy the 49ers back when the 49ers training camp was in Stockton. Spanos always wanted to own the 49ers. Interesting. I don't know if that was in response to another chat conversation there, Bryant, but I'm actually kind of tied to this in some funny ways, in that I went to University of the Pacific and I was in attendance at University of the Pacific, which is in Stockton, California, which is the practice field that the 49ers were at when they practiced in Stockton. I was there during those years. I was attending college at that time. Dean Spanos, Alex Spanos is part owner of that school as well. There's the Spanos Center at UOP. So there are a lot of ties there. Interesting. I spent a lot of time in Stockton. Man, as much as I dislike Jed York, thank goodness we are not owned by the Spanoses. Amen to that. Jacob Gutierrez coming in. Maybe it's too early for a game prediction, but Niners need to win by at least a 2-possession score. What would be your take? Bears defense is pretty beat up. They are beat up, but I'm with Kyle Shanahan in saying that this is a talented Bears defense that is just behind the 8 ball with the injuries for sure. If I'm going to be convinced that this team, the 49ers, has a shot at redemption this year, I'm with you that I need to see a resounding win. And if I don't see a resounding win, I'm going to really probably be beating the drum for Trey Lance the next week. As long as he's healthy. As long as he is healthy. That is, again, to me, first and foremost, make sure he's absolutely healed up, because the health of the rookie, the development of the rookie is the key for me. But if we just barely eke it out, I'm still probably on the train of switching to Trey. I'd be a lot more convinced if we have a big win. I'm with you there, Jacob. Rowe coming in. Do people oversee that Shanny only has one winning season and overlook that because Shanny has taken us to the Super Bowl? I feel like there's no accountability in this office, Rob. Rowe, let me counter that by saying it was only one season, but man, it was a magnificent season. I mean, a hair away from a Super Bowl victory. And yes, you can fault Shanahan for the loss in the Super Bowl. It's freaking painful, man. I was there in Miami in the stands, went solo to the game. And I mean, that's the type of fan I am, man. I roll when I can, and it broke my heart. But that doesn't change how special that season was. So I think that's the high watermark, and that's why it's so hard to move on. Is, yeah, you only had one winning season out of 4, but it was a dominant season where it felt like everything was going right, and it felt like everything was going right because of the way in which Shanahan was pulling the strings. So to me, I have to go back and look at that and give it more weight than just one winning season. It is one phenomenal season altogether. EMA talking about heartbreaking to hear, however, a great deal of truth. Being behind the 8 ball isn't meant for everyone. You stay ahead. You don't have to get ahead. We've lost too many far too early. That's true. Some people, some players, some teams don't respond well to adversity. We have to hope that this 49ers team, that this 49ers front office, that the leaders who have yet to step up within this team are built for this. And honestly, you're only going to find that out now that they're facing adversity. I don't think we do anything this year that sells out toward winning now at the cost of future seasons. Any move you make this year, if it helps this year, it better help next year as well. That's my stance, and I'm sticking with it. Tony Nagatoni coming in here. 49ers are going to let Jimmy start in front of his mom and family this weekend. If he has another junk game, hopefully it'll be Trey time soon, though. I'm not optimistic about when soon is. You and me both, Tony. It seems that Kyle is dead set on taking Trey along slowly. I mean, at a snail's pace, slowly. I'm all for being conservative. And you got to get him in there. You got to fricking get him in there. Interrupt says, when Saleh was here, we never had penalties. Something to think about. Yeah, you do wonder if a lot of guys have a lot more on their plates than they currently can handle. D'Amico Ryan's probably still growing into that role, but I'm liking what I've seen from him so far. The secondary coach, Again, he could be the victim after this game. If we see more PI come up, I won't be shocked if in fact he is out the door after this game. That's for sure. But again, Mike McDaniel, another one that you want him to step up and step into the role. It's early in the season. Unfortunately, we lost a lot of games we thought we would win, and therefore we are all in pain as 49ers fans. Bryant calling out that, yes, in fact, Khalil Mack is not expected to play versus the 49ers, may have to go on IR with that injury. I saw that come out on Twitter as well. Okay, here we go. Question from Jerome 43100. I don't know if that's your zip code there, Jerome. If it is, I don't know where that is, quite honestly, but somewhere in the U.S., right? Jerome asks, Rob, do you think Jed is forcing Kyle to use Jimmy Trash because he's willing to pay him this year? I don't. I just, from what I know of Kyle and Kyle's ego, I don't believe that Kyle gets forced into many things. I think if Kyle were forced into a scenario that he was against, that he might just walk away, that he would be even more checked out and combative than he is right now. Julio calling out, brace for trades. They're coming. Kwan, Greenlaw, DJ Jones, possibly even Ayuk and McGlinchey. That would be a windfall of trades going out. I definitely could see the Kwan Williams. He's on a one-year deal. Greenlaw, that's interesting. He's got a contract renewal coming up in the next couple of years, right? The rookie deal will be running out, and you're seeing good things from Al-Shair. And so you wonder if you could have a cheaper replacement. I like what Big Play Dre brings to the table, so I'm hoping that the 49ers will re-sign him, but that'd be a lot of money to have committed to your linebacking core, which is not always a great idea. DJ Jones, another one where if you say that D-line is your strength, and DJ Jones, got to give him the nod on the barbecue sauce. What's up, barbecue sauce? Yes. Again, I don't get paid for pushing that out there. It goes to charity. Yes, so DJ Jones, I would like to keep around, but again, an expensive group. You don't know that the Niners will re-sign him. The Niners know which of these players they're targeting to re-sign. Any of them that they're not, they need to get some draft capital back. If you're not going to bring them back next year on a new deal, get some draft capital. Ayuk, I don't know what you get for him because you've shown that you don't trust him. So that one, to me, he's damaged goods. You got to fix him in-house. Hopefully they can. McGlinchey's an interesting one that you throw out there and could be a possibility, especially if you continue to see progression from Jalen Moore, the rookie who came in and started in replace of Trent Williams, and I thought looked very decent in that game. Bryant saying, I want to see Nate Sudfeld get some playing time. It couldn't be much worse than what we're seeing from Jimmy at this point in time. Kim coming in, Kim Adams. Yeah, baby, big cubic inch. I got a 67 GTO. What's up with the 67 GOAT out there? For those of you that don't know, the nickname for the GTO is the GOAT and has been so well before we started using the term GOAT and throwing it around so loosely as we do today. CG Ruthless Sports saying, what's up? What's up, CG? Had the pleasure of being on his channel. Luke coming in, that 69 muscle car sounds great. My first was a 68 Plymouth Satellite Coupe. That is slick, Luke. That is slick. All right, Mike Mosley coming in. Do you actually think that Kyle can ever be a good head coach with the way he treats his personnel? I don't honestly know, Mike. He has a lot of personal growth in this area that he needs to make. He absolutely struggles embracing people. He has of the carrot and stick approach, he has the stick down wholeheartedly. I don't know that he's ever seen a carrot in his life. He doesn't seem to wrap his arms around players. He doesn't seem to understand that there are those of us out there that may not be the type where you punch us in the face and we respond. Some of us actually like to be told that we're good, that we can succeed. Some of us like to be built up. I know, because I know myself to be that type of person, that I need a servant leader as my director, as the CEO of a company that I work for. Because I need someone who's going to pour into me. I need someone, when I work for them, that believes my success is their success and my failure is their failure. That has always been my belief as a manager and director within organizations, always how I have operated, and honestly is the biggest missing piece for me when it comes to Kyle Shanahan. Looking on to the next question here. Paul Salvi coming in. When Kittle and Wilson Jr. are back, do you think that'll help with a second half run? I do. I mean, that's a hell of a lot of talent. If they can come back and stay on the field, that gives the 49ers a significant leg up. But it's important to remember, 49ers fans, that the 49ers schedule is brutal down the stretch. We play a lot of really talented teams, a lot of teams with really winning records at this point. It's pretty crazy. Mike comes back in with a follow-up question to that one on Kyle. And the follow-up is, or do you think he should rather just be an offensive coordinator and hand over the head coaching job to someone else? He deflects all blames to others. I do think that he is a more naturally gifted offensive coordinator. That it fits his personality type a bit more because of his lack of servant leadership, because of the idea that I don't know that he cares for his players. Go watch John Harbaugh's 3-minute clip on servant leadership. Google servant leadership, John Harbaugh. Watch him talk about the easiest way to show people that you care about them is to actually care about them. And I don't honestly know, and I don't know if I believe that Kyle cares about his players. I don't know, other than a few players that come and party with him in Cabo, Joe Staley, Kyle Juszczyk, Tom Compton. Other than those players, I'm not sure Kyle likes all of his players because he doesn't convey it. And if he were just to outwardly show that, I think it would go a long way in getting these guys to run through a brick wall for him because they're missing that emotional connection to their coach. To me, it's unacceptable. Unacceptable. Jamie Bryant coming in. I like Marlon Mack. Do you think we should take him before the trade deadline? I like him as well as a runner, but this to me fits the bill of a mistake if the 49ers do it. I like him as a player. I like him as a runner. I don't think he fits what we're trying to do. You've got to hope that Jeff Wilson comes back in 3-4 weeks, and that until then, the rookies will get you through at the running back position. This would feel like a Band-Aid that would help us this year, but cost us going forward. I think that we're too cash strapped as a team to be investing there. I think when we can find pretty consistent draft hits when it comes to running back and even unrestricted free agents after the draft, to me, that is the way in which you pursue filling the running back room. I wouldn't make the trade for Mack, but I respect the opinion that he is, in fact, a skilled player. Ricardo asking, should the 49ers change their slogan to Faithful to the Bay? Oh, change the slogan of Faithful to the Bay. I don't know. I mean, I like it. I do think sometimes you got to switch it up, but I'm down with Faithful to the Bay, and I'm still faithful, even if we're not winning. It doesn't mean that I can't question my team. It doesn't mean that I can't criticize my team. It doesn't mean that I can't call them out. It just means I'm a 49er fan through and through. It just means that I bleed red and gold. That's what it means to me. Antonio coming in. Is it weird to be a 49ers fan and want this team to lose Sunday to the Bears so Trey Lance starts? I get it, but for me, that's not who I am. To me, yeah, that would be weird. But I understand fans that are there. CJ Ruthless Sports coming in. What's your score prediction for the 49ers Bears? I haven't gotten there yet, but my expectations are low. I put this team probably in the 1-score range. Let me clarify by saying, even though my expectations are low, I still expect the 49ers to beat the Bears on Sunday. I haven't done an official score prediction, but yes, I do in fact expect the 49ers to beat the Bears regardless of whether they're able to bring in Trey Lance for some excitement. I do think that it will probably be a 1-score prediction that I land on for sure. Mike Mosley coming back in. Seems to me that George Kittle is more of an instigator rather than a leader. I think he should shut his trap and play rather than put down Trey. I can see what you're saying there. I don't view what he said about Trey as put downs as much as a wait and see approach and yes, backing Jimmy. It felt like a very clear play to back Jimmy, to throw his support in Jimmy G's corner. And at that point in time, honestly, Jimmy probably needed the support and wasn't getting it from the front office. So I'm okay with Kittle's attitude and the way that he's approached the season. What I would like to see from Kittle is a change in the pressers. I'm not thrilled with the Kyle Shanahan standoffishness that he has adopted this season, and it's probably due to frustration with those of us in the fan base being a bit unreasonable towards him because of our irritation with how this season has gone, and I get that. Absolutely get that. But you see him at the Giants game getting questions about, being on some guy's fantasy team. I could understand where the frustration is coming through. Eric's question is, Rob, you have to stop wearing that Jerry hoodie because if you keep wearing it, it will spend money. I will spend money I shouldn't be spending. Eric, I'm with you there. Don't give your hard-earned money to NFL Shop, but God, their gear is so good. It's so good, I can't help myself. I cannot help myself. Yeah, Kim Adams, I'm here with you. I was really excited for this season. What a letdown, Kim says. Kim, 100% there with you, 100%. Mr. Fang, I hope you're joking here. I'm counting on the fact that you're joking because otherwise I wouldn't have put it up there. But Mr. Fang says, I'm going to the game to throw pumpkins at Jimmy Garoppolo. Throw some verbal pumpkins if you need to, for sure. Chester, pointing out that Jerry hoodie didn't work. It did not, but I'm not giving up on it yet. CG Ruthless coming in. Do you think Javon Kinlaw was a disappointment pick? Yeah, to this point, no question. If the knee ends up being a career ender, you have to question the ability to properly vet that pick. The biggest pain part of that, the biggest pain point, giving up Buckner to get him. I'm with Matt Mayoko, Matt Barrows in completely questioning that trade from the outset. I was devastated when it happened. I was upset when it happened. I'm still upset now. You say that you build your entire team from the defensive line. You say you want high quality, high caliber players who do things right in the community. That was the epitome of DeForest Buckner. You made a business decision. A business decision. Well, value. We could get better value. Let me give you a news flash. You don't understand value if that's who you traded away and that's who you selected with the replacement pick in the first round. Frustrating. You can tell I am definitely a big Buckner fan, no question. Mike Mosley coming in. Rob, do you think that Kyle could teach Trey? We need a quarterback coach. Any ideas on that? All I'll say on that one is that the track record for me is not there on developing rookie quarterbacks. This is my assertion, that he put RG3 in the best position to be successful, and RG3 lit it up his rookie season. Now, the knee injury then negates any observations going forward because you could just say it was the knee injury that ruined him. But Kirk Cousins' first 2 years with Kyle Shanahan were atrocious. He did not come up until his fourth year in the league, and that was his second year underneath, guess who? Sean McVay, who developed Kirk Cousins. The only quarterbacks that Kyle has worked with and improved on an annual basis, meaning from 1 year to the next, were Matt Schaub, and it was Schaub's fourth year in the league when he started working with Kyle in Houston, and Matt Ryan. And that was only 2 seasons. Good one in 15, and then an elite season in 16 when everything clicked. But I haven't seen the development of rookies. Steven coming in, Steven Duarte saying, you're our leader, Schuh. I appreciate that. I try to take it square on the chest. If I'm wrong, I admit it. No question about it. All right, keeping going through the comments. We're still about 20, 25 minutes through, but if you put the comment in there, I will try to get to it before we end up wrapping this show in the next 15 minutes or so. Mr. Fang coming in. Rob, I think it's quite possible that Matt Mayoko's speech is the first signs of Jed's leaks. He dictates how they feel. Now he is saying they are a bad team. Mr. Fang, I don't think that's a conspiracy theory at all. I think when you see Matt Mayoko saying the 49ers are a bad team, the 49ers are a bad team. And within the organization, they are hearing that message loud and clear. Bryant, at this point, I don't know. It doesn't seem as if... Sorry, let me read the question so everyone can read along. Bryant Culp asks, what's the difference in RG3 and Trey Lance? To this point, it doesn't seem as if Kyle learned his lesson from ruining RG3 by running him too frequently. Jackie Boy coming in saying we should trade Raheem for a draft pick. I'm torn on this one because I was just about to say I would love to re-sign Raheem Mostert. But if they do that, then they'd be counting on him. And God knows that's a foolish plan. I love Raheem when he's healthy. And I hope that he's able to get all the way back. I'd be okay re-signing him as long as the 49ers are re-signing him as a complementary piece. And the rest of the running back room is built thinking that you will not have Raheem for the vast majority of the season, right? That he will be there for some games, but not all. That said, the likelihood that they're going to re-sign him is probably slim. If you can get anything for anybody, any player that's not coming back on a contract at this point in time, you absolutely have to try for it. You got to recoup some draft capital. We need some cheap bodies to come in the door. All right, a lot of questions I'm going to try and get to for sure. Jackie Boy clarifying, I'm a kid. That's all right. Hey, kids can have opinions too, my friend. Absolutely. Yeah, agree with the fact that Mostert is really good, cannot stay healthy. Ricardo wants to know the score prediction as well. Come back. I will give that on the Friday show. I will definitely be pouring into the Bears tomorrow, big time. I will have that score prediction for you on Friday's show, currently scheduled for 12:15. Again, that show starts immediately following my live stream with Grant Cohn on Grant Cohn's channel. Typically goes from 11 to around 12:15. I go immediately over and start my show. Bryant comparing him, RG3 doesn't have the arm strength, but has better touch. I would agree, yes. If we're comparing skill sets, RG3 was a more prolific passer. I think he was a bit more elusive as a runner. I would give Trey the nod in a more powerful arm and a more powerful running style. Just a bit more of a, in my mind, the quarterback comparison that I found interesting was a Dante Culpepper type of a mobile quarterback who has the cannon and the legs if he needs it, and can power through again if he needs to. Eric, again, coming in saying, no one will trade for Raheem. He's on an expiring contract and will not play again this year. The only teams that would trade for him, and I mean, you'd think that it's impossible, but the only team that would trade for him is someone who wants to get ahead of negotiating a next contract, and someone coming off a major injury. I'm with Eric here that I am highly skeptical anybody is giving up anything to get there. Jackie Boy coming back in. Elijah Mitchell is good. He's shifty and speedy like Heem. Yes, he does not have the same vision as Raheem Mostert, and he is not as fast, but he is a poor man's Raheem Mostert, and he's a rookie. So you can hope that that vision gets better and better, and that, then you'll see the flashes of that home run hitting speed for sure. Continuing to roll through. Let's see. Ricardo saying, Rob, as a 49ers fan, who do you have the most faith in the 49ers as a team and franchise? As a 49ers, who do you have the most faith in the 49ers as a team and franchise? I don't know who I have the most faith in. I think that the wording of the question leaves it a bit confusing as to the true intended message. So I'm going to try and interpret it. Who do I have the most faith in the front office? At this point in time, it's got to be D'Amico Ryans and the coaching staff. He's the one that seems to be checked in, like is fully committed to this season. Other than that, I just don't know at this point. I just don't. EMA, you're the man, Rob. You're the man, EMA. I appreciate that. And I respect you, good sir. Absolutely. Mike coming back in. Rob, how can we be a Super Bowl team when one injury takes out our cornerback room and our offensive line is this bad? Well, Mike, it sure seemed like the cornerback room was holding their own for a while, but these PI penalties just keep hitting over and over and over again. And let's just face it, I think we all have to admit to ourselves that we are just not a Super Bowl team at this point. And therefore, the clear priority has to be the development of the young players, most specifically Trey Lance. Trey Lance, ladies and gentlemen. Indeed. Rolling through. Look at this. Bryant coming in. Rob, I am right around the corner. Tiger Yogurt. What's up? From Stockton. What's good at UOP, Bryant? What's the haps? Yeah, man, I was there for some of those practices that happened in Stockton. That was a good time. My brother, my dad came out to Stockton. We all went to the practices together. That was dope to have the 49ers around. I still see Matt Mayoko throw on that UOP shirt with the 49ers on it. I love it. All right, Mike coming back in with the question, how can you trust Kyle's judgment when all the former players he releases or let go are doing well to great on other teams? I don't know that it's that convincing in the players leaving and doing well. There have been a couple of cases of it. And I mentioned them earlier in the show, most specifically, Dante Pettis had an okay game, a good game, but that could be a flash in the pan. He flashed some good games for the 49ers too. I'll need to see sustained success from Dante before I see him as a reclamation project. Solomon Thomas, we just put him in a bad position to be successful. It felt like he is having a resurgence, and that was a case of overvaluing a pick, taking him too early, and then putting too much pressure on him. That would be a mistake that a lot of teams tend to make. All right, we're getting caught up. We are only about 10 minutes behind. I'm looking for some folks that maybe haven't gotten in here. Avtar is in there. I'm going to throw that up. Avtar, the opposing players starting to say that they were glad about Niners going away from what was working during the first drive. Same thing happened about players saying in the Super Bowl. Yeah, this comment is about I think you put in his previous comment was Kyle should have scouted himself during the bye week, right? And then the follow-up is this comment about getting away from what was working so successfully against Indianapolis. This is frustrating. This is Kyle Shanahan in its entirety. A drive that is like, holy moly, where was that? Where were all those misdirections? That's spectacular. I freaking love what the Niners are doing here. And then completely abandoning it. Hearing from the opposing team that they are so glad that the 49ers just decided to stop doing that because we didn't know how to stop it, quite honestly. Yes, that happened in the Super Bowl. Tyrann Mathieu came out and said the same thing about running the ball. It is the frustrating aspect of Shanahan. But I will point out that feels fixable. He can't seem to fix it, so maybe I'm wrong. But come on, just wake up, Kyle. Wake up. Just put someone next to you on the sideline that can slap you when you're doing that can wake you up, that can say to you, Kyle, stop getting in your own way. You're crushing it here. Keep doing it. And I do believe it's Kyle outsmarting himself, believing that, yeah, we are running it all over them, down their throats. The Colts don't know what to do with this misdirection, but they are going to catch up to it at some point. Kyle thinks to himself, I'm going to zig before they zag. He thinks he's going to get ahead of the team by adjusting at the same time the team is adjusting to what he was initially having success with. He's outsmarting himself at this point. If you are running it down somebody's throat, keep doing that. Until they physically stop you from doing it, please keep doing it. Keep freaking doing it. Fable came in here. Last week, we were moving the pocket with bootlegs, play actions, and misdirection. All of it was effective. Then Kyle went vanilla. In the NFC Championship game, he kept using what worked. What changed within Kyle? Again, I think he's just not comfortable where he's at. I think his confidence is shaken. I think he is questioning himself. He's questioning his foundational principles. It's a matter of doubt. It's a lack of confidence. And that's why I believe somebody next to him, somebody on that sideline has to step up. I'm looking at Mike McDaniel. Mike, what do? You don't call the plays. You questioned why we would even wonder why you might call the plays. Well, maybe think about taking that play sheet away from Kyle. He's already drawn them up at that point. He can't seem to dial them up in the correct order. Leave him the script. He seems to work wonders with the script. But when it comes to post-script game calling, where's the genius? It's not there right now. He needs help. He definitely needs to self-scout. No doubt. Ooh, Chester calling out Kyle's propensity to party in Cabo with the boys. As a boss, you should not party with the employees. It sends the wrong message to those you don't hang out with. This could actually be a reference to Jed York partying with his employees. At all levels, it's true. Whether it's Cabo, Shanahan partying with some of the players that then makes it tougher to evaluate those players and cut them at the beginning of the year to keep other players. I'm looking at you, Tom Compton. Or when you're talking about Jed York and it comes to John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan, he may be too close to those individuals to be able to move on. Fable brings this up, and I wonder this myself, Fable. Is Parag responsible for trading Buckner more than anyone else? We need a tell-all book, 49er faithful. We need somebody to come out with it early before everything crashes and burns, because I want to know. I want to know what's going on. Jesse calls out that Kyle ain't no QB coach. He was only a QB coach 1 year with Matt Schaub in Houston. I couldn't speak to his effectiveness there. It sure doesn't seem like he is being terribly effective in developing either one of his quarterbacks here. You could say that he has ruined Jimmy Garoppolo's confidence. Go back and look at the 2017 tape of Jimmy Garoppolo that's making its rounds on Twitter right now. You could see it on Bonta Hill's timeline or Niner Nick. Both of them posted that clip of him talking after one of the games in 2017. Look at the confidence. Look at the body language of Jimmy in 2017. There are no nervous tics. Now he's got this, he touches his face all the time, and it's clearly a nervous tic. The body language message that sends to me is that he's lacking confidence wholeheartedly. Go back and watch Confident Jimmy. I think that Kyle has ruined his confidence. I agree with you. He's not a quarterback coach. He needs someone else in there to build up his quarterbacks and to instill confidence in them. No question. Interrupts, this looks like a good one, I think. Interrupt says, I don't think we should be buying during the trade deadline. Okay, I'm good with that. He says, because there's not a great chance of making the playoffs this season anyways. That seems fair. I think we need to sell for draft capital next year. I think Interrupts and I are on the same page there. Although I will reiterate, the only thing I'm selling is guys on 1-year contracts. You can't mortgage the future at this point. Rick Munez coming in. Rob, will liking this video make me cool and hip? Yes, in fact, it will. That's a great point that you bring up there, Rick. Subscribing to my channel, liking this video, hitting that notification button, all those things go into making you cool and hip. And it is my stance that you should get your recommendations of what is cool and hip from 43-year-old guys on YouTube. That is typically where you're going to find the best insight on being cool and hip. Now, I appreciate that, Rick. Love the call out of liking the video for sure, because that helps the algorithm. No question about it. All right, keep going down. Ooh, keep going down. Sell, sell, sell. People want to sell at the trade deadline for sure. Ooh, Melvin asking, I wonder if Jimmy Johnson could be lured away from Fox to coach the Niners. I don't know, but if he could, I would get away from Kyle at that point. I have fears about who could replace him. If you said Jimmy Johnson was willing to come back into the NFL, as much as I hated the Cowboys of the 90s, and I was a super fan at that point, when Dion left the Niners to go to the Cowboys, I wrote full letters, F Dion, in big freaking letters on the back of my favorite 49ers Jerry 101 t-shirt that I had back then as a 17-year-old lad that was wildly rebellious and angry that a player that I respected could go over to the Cowboys. As much as I hated the Cowboys, if we could get Jimmy Johnson, as washed as he probably is, that would be exciting. I would be okay with it. Chester saying, I just bought a new hoodie and my wife was mad. The hoodie is dope. I'm with you. I constantly am getting in trouble with my wife because I am buying 49ers gear. Thankfully, she has a propensity to buy gear for herself as well. All right, Jason coming in here. Look at the time. We're only 11 minutes behind. We may catch up here. He says, Jason Walsh says, Rob, yeah, my ultimate fear is that Kyle can't develop Lance, like at all. I hope I'm wrong. I'm with you, and that should be every 49ers fan's biggest fear. The fear is that Kyle's incapable of it, or that at the end of the season, you move on from Kyle and don't bring in the correct head coach the first time. So now you've wasted Lance's first year in the NFL. You bring in a bad head coach, someone a la Jim Tomsula, Mike Singletary. You waste the second year of Lance's development. You bring in a third head coach his third year. Now he's had 3 offensive coordinators, 3 head coaches. Like the train goes off the track quickly in this scenario. That's why I've got to hope that that Kyle pulls his head out of his butt and is able to get things right again. All right, Mr. Fang says that, Rob, I used to hate Jed York. I think the Harbaugh firing is still felt today. However, I do respect that he has shown he breaks contracts and fires if needed. Yes, I've seen significant growth in Jed York since 2014. Significant growth. And while he still is pain in my side at times, I have mad respect for the fact that he didn't settle for being a subpar owner, and he's working at it. He may not be up there with some of the elite owners within the NFL, but the guy's working at it, and you got to respect that because he's not, let's be honest, he's not firing himself. He owns the freaking team. If you own the team, would you fire yourself? I wouldn't. Even if I sucked at it, I'd be like, sorry, it's my team. Antonio talking about, I wish Jimmy G was like Alex Smith, but he's nothing like him. This Lance and Jimmy thing isn't like Smith and Mahomes at all. I would agree with that. I don't think that Jimmy G is a fraction of what Alex was in his last year. Tony coming in at Rob Schuh. Which do you find more annoying, when refs throw ticky-tack flags on Josh Norman, or when the refs don't call opposing offensive linemen for holding Nick Bosa? Because it's so glaring right now, I got to say the ticky-tack pass interference penalties. Like, come on. Let them play to some degree, or at least be consistent with the way it does it, with the way in which you're calling it. Now, the holding penalty that happened in the Super Bowl, those holds, those were brutal. Those I hate. If you're referring back to those holds against Nick Bosa, those might be more painful. But to this point in time, I feel like the PI penalties on the defensive backs, and let's be clear, not all of them are unwarranted. Many of them were legit grabs. Just 49ers defenders panicking, which is unfortunate. Unfortunate indeed. Robin talking about that 73 Plymouth Valiant. I had a 66 Plymouth Valiant at some point. Bought it out of the high school auto shop and drove it around with my buddies, unbeknownst to my parents. I was probably not driving legally at that point in time. But the statute of limitations has run out on that, so don't go reporting me to the Palo Alto police. Robin says, my parents bought me a 1973 Plymouth Valiant, baby blue with white vinyl top. Ooh, I would think that would be clean, Robin. I need to see pictures because I don't believe you that it was ugly. I bet it was a good-looking car. But then again, I don't know what a 73 Valiant looks like. A 66 was pretty clean. It was boxy. It was little. That was not bad. All right, coming in to interrupt says, I know Verrett has a big injury history, but is Ford Field turf or grass because he got hurt on a non-contact injury? Is Ford Field turf responsible for it? Maybe. I mean, I would love to see what I'm interpreting this question to mean is turf a negative thing for injuries? I think it is. And it's atrocious to me that more 49ers, more NFL owners are not ponying up the big bucks to pay for a grass field. You make billions of dollars, pay for grass. It's unacceptable. The fact that LA put in artificial turf, garbage. Take it out. Put in the grass. Put in the grass. All right, Rick says, I genuinely enjoy your channel and input. Thank you for being a more positive influence. Schuh the man. Thank you, Rick. I appreciate that. I try to be positive. That's sort of who I am by nature, but I need it to be this season with these 49ers because otherwise it feels dark. Speaking of dark, Antonio throws in that Debo has a calf injury. Team is doomed. I don't know. What I heard today, hopefully there hasn't been an update on this that leads you to believe it's more serious. But what I heard today was that it was real minor, real precautionary. Fingers crossed. If Debo's out, I mean, where's our offense, right? Where is our offense? Fable coming in saying, I'm not a genius or anything, but I think I would keep using what's working until the opponent figures out how to stop it and then adjust. Thank you, Fable. JVC, you and I are aligned on that wholeheartedly. Mr. Fang saying, Kyle is such a genius, he outcoaches himself. Yes, indeed. Yes, he does. We're only 10 minutes behind, but the comments keep streaming in. I can't keep up. Fable saying, Kyle handles his play calling like I handle my crypto wallet. Poorly. You and me both, my friend. Gabriel 2000, I don't know that I've seen you before, but the clapping, I appreciate it. Appreciate you for being on here. Luke liked the Plymouth. Yeah, how'd the Plymouth drive? I liked my Satellites 318 V8. I'm telling you, man, I enjoy driving all those old boats. They are fantastic. My first car, the first illegal one that I had, didn't have my license. 1977 Oldsmobile Delta 88. That thing was a boat, and it just cruised down the road. That was the most fun to drive as a 15-year-old through the Stanford woods. Let me tell you, we had some good times back then in the early 90s. Julio coming in. Since offensive coordinator is not an influential role for the 49ers, smartest thing Kyle could do would be poaching the best quarterback coach in the NFL by offering the offensive coordinator position. I'm on board with that wholeheartedly. All in on the development of Trey Lance. Let's do it. Whatever you need to do to get someone brought in that will help develop the young guy. That is key. Ooh, let's see. Let's see if we can see. Okay, here we go. Gabriel saying Samson Ebukam needs to go since Jordan Willis will be back. It will be interesting to see if Jordan Willis gets more playing time over Samson Ebukam. I thought that was a quality signing coming into the season, and we just have not gotten the next step from Samson Ebukam, whether it is a lingering issue with the hamstring or whether he's just struggling to take the next step and we're asking too much of him. I thought we would get more out of that signing than we have. All right, trying to find a good comment to take us home. AJB, what's going on, man? How you doing? That's a name I recognize for sure. Yep. Okay, here we go. Gabriel's suggestion, Rob, we should draft an edge rusher to complement Bosa and a cornerback. I like both of those. Unfortunately, we don't have a first-round pick, so you're probably going to have to use the second rounder on a cornerback to make sure that you are getting one of the premier cornerbacks left in the draft for sure. For sure. Bryant calling out that Dion was good, but we should not have let Charles Haley go. He was the one that we let get away. Wholeheartedly agree there. I mean, both were superstars. Should not have let either one get away. I believe that was sort of the first implementation of the salary cap as we currently have it, which led to the decimation of that 49ers team. All right, I'm trying to get down to the end here to see if there is, in fact, a good way to end this with a great comment here. I just want to end on a positive note, get in one last question and see if I can't do that. One's not jumping out, so I'm going to go through a couple, see if we don't land on one naturally. All right, Fable says, Bosa should learn where pressure points are and take it upon himself to make his holder release their hold, do the pain he's inflicting on their hand or wrist. I mean, if that would work, I'm all for it, man. A little pressure point, hit him and make sure that they let him go. That seems like it's tough to do on the fly, but I'm all for it. All for it. Mike coming back in. Here's what we should do. Fire Lynch, give Kyle an ultimatum, take the offensive coordinator position or sit out your contract on an Al Davis way to go. An Al Davis way to go, says Mike. That would be hardcore. I think Jed would be reticent to do that because it would send the message that you have fully panicked, like panic type of panic. That would be bad. Maybe that's where we are, but I choose to stay just a little bit more positive. And maybe that's how I will end with some positivity. Is just to say that, yes, it seems dark. Yes, it seems as if the 49ers are out of playoff contention. Yes, it seems like this front office is questionable to develop the young rookie quarterback. It's going to be a tough remainder to the year. But 49ers faithful, what I have done is readjust my expectations. I am no longer thinking that this is a Super Bowl or playoff team. I am thinking that this is a bad team that is struggling. A talented team that cannot put it all together. One that I hope everything will click for at some point. One that I hope will be able to turn this around. But I see brightness on the horizon. I remain optimistic that the 49ers can win this Sunday. I remain optimistic that they can be competitive this year, even with the injuries, even if they don't fix all of their issues. And if, just if, they can right the ship, this could be a deadly team if they snuck into the playoffs. It could be a deadly team, and it could be a team that has built something positive for next year. I don't want to be talking about next year already, but it is in my back pocket as something I hold on to stay positive. I'm going to wrap it up there, 49er faithful. In about 15 minutes, I'm going to be jumping on to the Camper Report. Go over to Ben Camperman's channel there and join me. I appreciate you being here with me for this long mailbag episode. Again, for future mailbags, if you want to send in your mailbag question ahead of time, where we submitting questions. If you want to submit your question ahead of time, there are multiple ways to do it. You can leave a comment underneath this YouTube video on my channel. I'll go back through before the next mailbag and read through it and add those questions. You can hit me up on Twitter. You can see my Twitter handle right up there, the left Schuh. DM me there. Hit me straight on Twitter. Or you can reach out to me by email if you're old school like I am. I love the email because I can't lose those. Those are easy to find. 49ers Mailbag at gmail.com. Thank you for joining me here today. If you haven't already, like, subscribe, hit the notification button. I appreciate all of your support wholeheartedly. I love this little community that we're creating here. I love having you all active in the chat, and I look forward to seeing you again, hopefully on Friday. Until then, stay faithful, 49er fans.